would like to welcome you and hand over to you to take us through photograph interpretation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayub, for once again this opportunity to be able to share with you something about photographic interpretation. I think this is the third time that we are handling this area. I also wish to thank my colleague, Mr. Kasim Musanje. I'd like to thank Chelsea Kagoye and all the other teachers who are here with us, not forgetting the students who are here, because there's a lot that we learn from the students themselves. So without, I say that where I am, there is no power. So let me try to see if this battery will be able to sustain the session. But in case of anything, in case power comes back, well and good. In case it does not, then yeah, I think we will have covered something. Okay, last time we dealt with the with the drawing of a sketch diagram, a landscape sketch of an area shown on a photograph. And we saw how it can be done to include the marginal information required of a geographer. The landscape sketch of an area drawn should include a descriptive topic, an enclosing frame, and also have a key or be well labeled, because all those are skills which earn marks. Then we are going to see something about the economic activities being carried out in an area. As far as the sketch was concerned, we drew it. We can even review it here again. Let me get the slide. Okay, Ayub, can you enable me to share the screen? To enable screen sharing on my part.
Yeah, let me
Yeah. Otherwise, they are in identifying the economic activities or land uses when an area is shown on a photograph, we are able to. Okay, let me share this now. Okay, I was seeing here. This is where we were last time, with our guiding question there, that with evidence from the photograph, identify the economic activities carried out in the area. Then describe, part B, describe the problems faced by the people carrying out the economic activities identified in C1 above.
The audio is off.
Activities just. Okay, you will excuse me for that in interruption, and you know the problem, I'm using the phone. I think let me do that, indicate that it do not disturb. I think now let us see. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. But the sort of the interruption. Now I've got back to where we are. That identify with evidence from the photograph, identify the economic activities carried out in the area. And this is our photograph. Just brought it closer. So from this photograph, what are the economic activities that can be observed there? So usually what they want is the evidence, evidence to show that there is the economic activity. And you have got to locate it. You have got to locate it, just as I think we had done something like that. Now, like here, we have cultivation. Cultivation in the background, in the middle and then backgrounds. You can see under terracing there. Then there is also, we've seen forestry in the middle ground, and in the foreground, we've seen these forests, the trees. Then there is the road transport in the right, in the left foreground. The left foreground, we have seen a major road here. Then also in the left in the background, there's also some road here. Then there is in the foreground, we have cultivation. You can see cultivation here in the foreground. I mean, not cultivation, but animal rearing in the foreground. So I had put it down. These are some of the economic activities in the area shown on the photograph. If we can reflect back to what we have been seeing, whereby I said crop cultivation evidenced by crop fields in the background, the crop fields in the background. Then cattle rearing, or it could be dairy farming or pastoral farming, ranching evidenced by animals. The evidence is the animals, the paddocks, and the pastures in the foreground and the middle ground. Part of the middle ground and also the foreground, there is cattle rearing, evidenced by the paddocks and also by the animals. We do see the animals there. Then forestry, evidenced by the trees or the forest in the foreground and in the middle ground, just as I showed you. Then transportation, evidenced by the roads in the left part of the photograph. The roads in the left part of the photograph. The left foreground and also the left background, We've seen those economic activities. So what is most important? Sorry. What is most important is you state the economic activity, the evidence, and where it is on the photograph. Where it is on the photograph. Is it in the background? Is it in the middle ground? Is it in the right foreground? You've got to locate it to show that you have actually done photo reading. But there could be someone who could say it's crop cultivation evidenced by fields in the northern part of the photograph. Do you expect such a person to be awarded on a photograph and you mention the direction, the northern part or the eastern part? No. So one who uses those cardinal or sub-cardinal points on a photograph is not a geographer, does not have those geographical skills. So that person won't be awarded, much as you may have identified the activity. So ensure that you use the correct or the correct descriptive terms for location. So those are the economic activities that we observe here, the economic activities that are observed in this photograph. Okay, now the other thing was with evidence here. identify the problems faced by the people in carrying out their economic activities. These economic activities we have seen here: crop cultivation, cattle rearing, forestry, transportation. What are the problems being faced by the people in carrying out these economic activities? And the evidence must be either inferred or directly visible and can be located on the what? On the photograph. So these are just some of the problems. For example, there's the problem of soil erosion due to the steep slopes as seen in the background. In the background, there are steep slopes. And definitely where there are steep slopes, erosion is possible, it takes place. Then secondly, problem of floods due to the lowlands in the foreground. Floods. So lowlands are prone to floods. So we have floods in the lowland there. You've seen, so that area is prone to floods. So it is possible that the people suffer from floods, because even they have taken measures to see how they can solve that problem. Then another possible problem, which is inferred, are the landslides. We not see a landslide taking place there, or some landslide related activity there, but it is inferred. Landslides due to the steep slopes in the background. It is a valid geographical statement to say that in areas where there are steep slopes, landslides occur. So where are the steep slopes? They are in the background, so I've seen. Then another problem faced by the people in the area and carrying out activities, whether it is agriculture or animal rearing, is the problem of vermin. Vermin or pests. So pests, vermin refers to pests. And dangerous animals. And dangerous animals. And dangerous wild animals from the forest in the foreground. From the forest in the foreground and in the middle ground. There are some forests in the middle ground, and there's some forests in the foreground. And there's some that we can also see in the background, in the hills, in the valleys of the hills. So those are sources of vermin or even dangerous wild animals. Then there's the problem, another one is problem of diseases. Diseases arising from the floods and vectors from the forests in the foreground and in the middle ground. So the foreground is prone to floods. So floods are a source of diseases. And some of those diseases could be caused by vectors from the forests. Possibly flies, possibly mosquitoes, and so on, which could lead to problems of diseases. So we have seen those problems: soil erosion due to the steep slopes, where in the background. Floods due to lowlands in the foreground. Landslides due to steep slopes, where the steep slopes in the background. Pests and dangerous wild animals from the forests, where the forests in the foreground and also the middle ground. And diseases from the floods that affect the lowlands. And the diseases caused by vectors from the forests, which are located in the foreground. Then another problem is the problem of remoteness. Remoteness due to steep slopes and hilly landscape. problem of steep slopes and hilly landscape in the background. That makes the construction of roads quite difficult. So in the background, we see there are some roads there, but they are not many. So remoteness due to steep slopes and hilly landscape in the background, that makes the construction of roads quite difficult. Then also difficulty in constructing settlements due to the steep slope in the background is another problem. Difficult in constructing settlements due to the steep slopes in the background. We have seen that in the background there are settlements, but the settlements are mostly concentrated on in the gentler slopes, in the gentler slopes of the hilly area, because on the steep slopes it is very difficult to construct settlements. Then overgrazing due to the fairly large number of animals seen in the foreground. Also, that could also be the reason why they could have introduced paddocking. Paddocking is done to ensure rotational grazing. So the problem could also be overgrazing. The animals there are quite many, as we see there. So the problem of overgrazing. Okay, I can take some more question there. There's someone who has raised their hand. Jennifer.
I'm just asking, you listed among the problems, you listed floods, and I'm not seeing any water there.
Yeah, but I said that they are inferred. They are inferred because also, but you have seen the reason for those trenches in the picture. Yeah, in the picture you have seen those trenches there. Why do you think those trenches were put there? In order to direct away flood waters.
Okay.
And usually it is geographically valid to say that in lowland areas are normally affected or prone to floods. Yeah, that is what I say. You may not see the floods here. Even here, you may not see the landslides here, but don't you think people in this place are affected by landslides? You may not see the soils being washed away by what? By running water. That's erosion, but erosion affects the place. So some of these can be inferred, or they can, one can see from the solutions they have taken. I hope it is it's okay. Yeah. Okay, so overgrazing due to fairly large number of animals as seen there. So those are some of the problems that can be seen or deduced from what we have. I mean from the area shown in the photograph. Now, the other one is with evidence from the photograph, describe measures taken to solve the problems faced in the area. With evidence. So now here the one with evidence from the photograph. Describe the measures taken to solve the problems faced in the area. Then the other question was giving reasons for your answer. Suggest an area in East Africa where the photograph could have been taken. There's also some other question I inserted in, which was describe the relationship between the physical factors and the land use activities in the area. That's now something to do with the relationships. We shall also deal with something to do with the relationships. But first and foremost, let us start with describing measures taken to solve the problems. So description of measures taken to solve the problems faced in the area. Yeah, those annotating, Please, yeah. That habit is for the for primary kids or senior ones and like. Now, description of measures taken to solve the problems faced in the area. Let me take you back to the photograph here. The photograph. What measures do you think have been taken to solve the problems facing this area? We talked of the problem of erosion. I hope you have seen these terraces or the contour plowing measure which has taken place. Or could be the banding, even the terracing in the background here, all these. That is the solution. Then also trees on the slopes, possibly those are to guard against what? Landslides. Because with the landslides, whenever you cut out deforestation, then you accelerate the process of what? Landslides. As we talked of, these drainage ditches or trenches, you have seen here. These ones are possibly to guard against the problem of what? Of floods, to direct away flood waters. To direct away flood waters. Then pests and diseases, there are some that we may not be able to, the evidence may not be there unless the evidence is just inferred, but some of them may not be able to see the evidence clearly. So we have seen some of those now, and also due to the problem of steep slopes, you can see the steep slopes here, where here it is very steep, there are no settlements. Here it is very steep, there are no settlements. So settlements are in the gentler slopes. You can see here, settlements in the gentler slopes. Settlements are here, settlements are here. So the people have chosen to settle on the gentle slopes. Steep slopes may have been left for cultivation as well. So measures taken to solve the problems. So what? Just like in any other thing to do with the map reading or photographic interpretation, they have requested for evidence. So we have got to state the what? The measure, the evidence, and locate it. So first of all, terracing or banding, or stroke contour plowing in the background to prevent or minimize soil erosion. I think you have seen that because we went back, we saw terracing, banding, contour plowing practice in the background to prevent or minimize soil erosion. Then tree planting, afforestation, reforestation on the steep slopes in the background to avoid or minimize problem of landslides. So the problem of landslides, we've told you that planting trees on the steep slopes, in the background to avoid or minimize the problem of landslides, or at least maintaining trees, even if you may not plant. Then the next one is construction of drainage ditches or trenches to minimize floods as seen in the left foreground. So drainage ditches, where? In the left foreground. For what? To minimize floods by directing away flood waters. Otherwise, if they're not there, the whole lowland will be flooded. Then another thing is paddocking or rotational grazing to avoid overgrazing. Paddocking or rotational grazing to avoid overgrazing evidenced by the presence of paddocks in the foreground. So there is paddocking evidenced by the what? The paddocks there. Paddocking for rotational grazing in order to avoid overgrazing. That is the evidence as a measure, because earlier on we talked of the problem of what? Overgrazing. Because we saw that there were quite a good number of animals. Then the other thing is a construction of roads and use of footpaths, because we said there's a problem of remoteness or accessibility problems. So construction of roads and use of footpaths or tracks or foot tracks to travel uphill in order to ease transport and communication problems as seen in the background. The background is is where the problem of transport or problem of accessibility is. So there's been construction of roads and use of footpaths or foot tracks to travel uphill in order to ease transport and communication problems. So because constructing a roadway is not easy, so the roads go up to a certain extent, then the rest could be footpaths. So people then walk. Then preventing floods or waterlogged conditions by constructing drainage ditches as seen in the left foreground in order to guard against diseases. So diseases such as a mosquito, malaria causing mosquitoes breeding in stagnant or flood waters could be done what? They have tried to solve that problem by preventing floods or waterlogged conditions by constructing drainage ditches, as seen in the left foreground in order to guard against what? Diseases. Then clearing of some bushes to create pastures, clearing of some bushes to create pastures, pasture lands or paddocks as seen in the foreground and middle ground, so as to eradicate habitats or pests or vermin and dangerous wild animals or breeding grounds of disease causing vectors. So some areas have been cleared, some bushes have been cleared. That's why we have those pastures there. Where the pastures may be, there could have been also some bushes, but when you remove those bushes, you create some clear pasture land, just as you could have seen from your school farms or some farms. Okay, those are just some of them. So I can take Nango's Sylvia. Yeah, I think you can unmute yourself and you ask. It could be a burning thing. Yes.
I've seen you say that there is construction of beaches. To prevent floods.
Yes.
Are you going to
your network seems to be I don't know whether the was got you clearly.
No, I think we can ask her to type. Sylvia,
you can type it.
We are monitoring the chat room so that
asking about something to do with the construction of drainage ditches. Take place in two what? So as I see here, as if power is cars come back, but let me continue. Last, yeah, in the end there'll be some session for what? For questions.
And Mr. Asea, could you project the slide for the photograph just briefly again, so that those who have just joined see the photo that you are referring to?
The photo that I'm referring to is here. But this person annotating.
Could
Okay.
we kindly stop annotating? Because we are able to see who is annotating, and we will send you out of the room, but we don't want to do that. We want you here. So don't annotate, please. Also go to the chat room and register. If you have a question, put up the hand, but in the meantime, we request you to type the questions in the chat room. We shall be copying them and
Okay, well, and this is the photograph. So the measures, yeah, that have been taken here. Terraces, seeing the terraces there, the trees being maintained or planted on the landslides, construction of the drainage ditches. I think drainage ditches. So that as solving the problem of what? Diseases, waterborne diseases like malaria. Because where there's waters, disease cause breed. So this is the photograph we are talking of. Problems of the people living in the area. Okay. So now the other thing is describe the relationship. Describe the relationship between the physical factors and the human activities in the area shown on the photograph.
Mr. Asea?
Yes.
This is I've seen quite a few comments of people not being able to see the screen. I propose that you stop share and then share again so that the screens of some people could refresh. And then we go to that one.
Meanwhile, let me see. Power has come. Let me see how to connect my thing now to power. But was running. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, as Mr. Asea connects his power, this is I made an observation from his. I made a quick observation from his presentation. He said when he was talking about the problems, I mean the solutions, I noticed that he was identifying the solution to tell us what the solution is. And then he would go ahead to tell us what problem he was addressing. So the solution was not only constructing dredges and stock work. He told us what the problem that was being addressed was. And then he provided us with the direction, with evidence from the photograph. So from all his answers, that is what I was speaking. He kept on identifying the solution. He kept on telling us the problem that is being solved, and then telling us where it was being addressed. I think that is very important. He couldn't have done it just for just. It might be a very good area that he thought of. I remember we had questions from Sylvia. Sylvia, okay. Sylvia, I'm happy you have typed the question, and you are saying construction of drainage ditches and again preventing of floods by construction of drainage ditches. Isn't it a repetition, but presented in a different way? That is my question. So, Sylvia,
yeah,
Mr.
I guess that's what you was asking, and I think I answered it. Okay, I said that the construction of drainage ditches has been to solve the problem of what? Floods. You know, the floods can also lead to more problems like diseases, not so? Floods can lead to the problem of disease. To solve the the problem of diseases, first of all, partly you have got to do what? If you don't solve the problem of floods, you won't solve the problem of what? Diseases. Function of the drainage ditches is could guard against the problem of floods and also guard against the problem of what? Of diseases as well. One is solve the problem of what? Floods. The other one is also used to is a same measure. So floods is not necessarily what? Diseases, but floods may lead to diseases. So a solution to them can be that is being what? Two birds with one stone. Okay. You can go, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Then there was one who was saying, guide me on how to access the information that the recorded videos. I'll do that shortly, but I would like for us to continue with Mr. Asea if there are no questions to do with his presentation. Let me see, someone was saying I can't see. Those are the questions I was having, that some could not see the screen. Then
okay. It could be, I don't know whether that's it.
Mr. Asea, another one. How do floods come about? Yet I see, I think that one you answered. Yes, I see no, yet I see no water body in the photograph. How do floods come about? Yet I see no water body in the photograph. Would you want to address that as well?
Bring it back again, yeah. So there are no floods, but yeah, now there are no floods now. It is because steps have been taken to guard against it. They have constructed what? Drainage ditches to direct away flood waters. So as I said earlier on, lowlands floods. In case of any heavy rains, floods affect lowlands. So it is say that because of what? The extent of the lowland, the people in the area may suffer from floods. The areas are affected by floods. Even in map reading, it is acceptable. Even in places, you can ask the people, you may go there and they can tell you that, yeah, then you see, but how comes I don't see any water? It is like the times you may go to places past used to be seriously hit by flood. You go during the dry season, there is hardly any water, and you even wonder and say, why from floods? You don't see any water. So I think that is the whole what? Floods are the water is not seen. Currently, water is not seen because it may possibly not be the what? The rainy season. But generally in lowland areas in an area where rainfall is, floods are imminent.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Asea. I think we can proceed with our relationships in geography on photograph. Thank you.
Okay. So let me share and see. Okay, but this other thing was, okay. No, the video thing wasn't on. Let me hope let me hope it is a bit clearer now.
It was always clear to me. It is a few students who are not able to access. So we thought maybe
it is a few students. Yeah. It could be. It could be either their screens. Okay.
Mr. Kalema.
Yes, sir.
I think it's their network. The thing is so clear.
Okay.
It's clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we continue, Mr. Asea.
Okay. between the
Asim, you are
physical
writing on our board. Stop it, please. Asim, we still want you in our class.
Asimwe, my dear. Like, okay. So describe the relationship between the human activities or the land use activities in the area shown in the photograph. This is one area which is usually examined or tested about, because we well know that the geography is the spatial relationship between man and the environment. Geography focuses more on the interrelationships between phenomena. Map reading, relationships. Photographic interpretation, relationships. Because relationships, man-land relationships are a key factor. Okay, now let us note that physical factors include the following: drainage, natural vegetation, and soils or rocks, because rocks could go hand in hand with factors, things which may make up the physical environment. That's why there are times you could have seen questions, describe the relationship between relief and land use. Relief is certain, drainage and vegetation and land. So we could have seen those ones, but here we shall sort out which is which, but otherwise those are the physical factors which may affect land use activities. Now, while human activities may include forestry, transport, mining, fishing, tourism, trade, industry, so there are also a number of what human activities, but basically the physical factors are the relief, drainage, natural vegetation, and soils. But normally it is common for them to ask about relationship between relief and drainage and land use, which is normally observable clearly. So now, in this here, this photograph of ours, what are the relationships here? The interrelationships between the physical factors. So the relief features, background of the relief features with the hills, the steep slopes, the hills and the steep slopes, the gentle slopes in the middle ground here, and in some in some areas along the in the hilly region. We have the foreground here, foreground which is a lowland. It's a lowland. Then as far as the drainage features are concerned, here we may not see drainage features, but the drainage feature here are the artificial, the drainage ditches. You can see the drainage ditches. The vegetation, we see the forests around, but normally it is the natural what? Physical factor. The pastures, you can see pastures, the grasses, this is what? Natural vegetation. The grass. And how has, you find that in the foreground here, we see cattle. Roads are in I mean, in the lowland in the foreground, the lowlands, roads are in the gentle slopes, and in the what? In the lowlands, forest, the lowlands on the steep slopes. Settlements are on the gentle slopes. So this is just the image. So let us go to the what? The relationships now, the possible relationships, and how we can bring them out, because photographic interpretation involves the interpreting. So reading, you have to, the things have to appear there clearly as evidence. Now, one of the relationships is that the steep slopes in the background have led to terrace cultivation. So where there are steep slopes, there is cultivation, but under what? Terracing. The physical factor here is relief. So this reflects relationship between relief and land use. Because where there are steep slopes, there is terrace cultivation or cultivation, but under terracing, as you can see in the back. Where? In the background. So we can see here, this is the relief. This is what? That is relief. This background is the what? The location. LO, we have said Lowland. Then, then we have what? Terrace cultivation is the activity. The activity. The land use activity or the economic activity is this. So what you have got to take note of, as I said the other time, is the relief, the activity. So relationship between the steep slopes, where the steep slopes are, there is terrace cultivation. Then where we're locating, it is in the what? In the background. So take note of that. Even in map reading, try to identify the and locate it. The evidence, locate it. They've got to be brought out and it must be located. Then the lowlands, in the lowlands or the broad valley in the foreground is used for livestock rearing. The relief feature, what is relief? The physical feature is relief, which is either the lowland or used for what? Livestock rearing. So this is the activity. Activity is livestock rearing. Then this one is the physical factor. The physical factor here, in this case, is physical factor here is the what? Relief. And where locating it is the what? Is the foreground. So ensure that you locate. Now here, the gentle slopes in the middle and backgrounds are used for settlements. The gentle slopes in the middle and backgrounds are used for settlements. Gentle slopes, this is it's a physical factor used for what? Gentle slopes for land use. This is the land use the land use, where in the middle and the backgrounds. Then the gentle slopes in the middle ground are used for crop cultivation. In the middle ground there is also what? Crop cultivation in the gentle slopes. Where there is a terracing cultivation, it is what? It is, though it is all cultivation, but the slopes are steep, it is terracing. Where they're gentle, there may be no what? Terracing. Just like in the what? In the middle ground. Then the lowlands in the the middle ground have been used for forestry. They have been used for forestry. The grounds have been used for forestry. As we will reflect back on the photograph, forests. So forestry is the activity. Lowland is that. Lowland is the physical factor, or which is the relief. The physical factors here basically I think on this slide, it is basically the relationship between relief and land use, because the lowlands, gentle slopes, lowlands or broad valley. So in this slide is basically what? Relief and land use. Let us cannot say that the lowland in the left foreground is used for road transport. So you can specify road transport, because transport may also be broad. The lowland in the left foreground is used for transport. Evidenced by the what? By the road. So the lowland, where foreground, left foreground, the location, activity, road transport. Then the road transport routes and the backgrounds are constructed along the spurs. They're constructed along the spurs. What this is relief. Spur is relief. Road transport, the activity. Where in the background. I think with this one here, let me take you back to where the photograph is, and then we see it. In the background, you have seen this, there's this other road here. Then there's also this road here, along here. See, this is a spur. This is a low of the hill. This is a spur. This is also a spur. Somewhere in between is quite a low area. So spur, another space here. So I was saying that we have seen constructed along the spurs. I think it is easier along the spurs than the valleys. Because between two spurs, usually there are what? Valleys. So spur is a relief feature. So roads constructed along the spurs in the middle and the background. Spur, then it goes up. So that is what I wanted to show you. Where we were. Then crop cultivation is concentrated in the well-drained areas in the middle and backgrounds. So the relationship here, what is the physical factor here? The physical factor here is drainage. Is it well drained? What drainage features it? What type of drainage pattern is it? That is what we consider. So here now we come out with that crop cultivation is concentrated in the well-drained areas. So the well-drained areas which are gently sloping or even steeply sloping. In the lowland areas, drainage, because even drainage ditches have been constructed to direct away water. So this one here, we've seen crop cultivation, the activity concentrated where? So drainage, location in the background and in the middle grounds. Also, we have here areas with good pastures, in the foreground are used for animal rearing or grazing. Areas with good pastures or available pastures in the foreground are used for animal grazing. So the physical factor there is now the vegetation aspect of what? Of grass, providing the. So where there's grass, it has been used for what? Paddocking, for animal rearing, or for the dairy farming, for that matter. So I think you make sure you identify the physical factor. In this case, this physical factor now is what? The drainage. So this could a relationship between drainage and landform. I mean, a drainage and a human activity, between drainage and the human activity. So the last two, drainage activities. Otherwise, most of the rest are between relief and the human activities. Okay, I think we'll finish these other ones. I think there is someone here is using a techno device. Yeah, you can tell us the one was, as we the other time suggest that it's better you rename your device so that okay, you can ask. You can still go ahead and you ask.
Okay, sir. Excuse me?
Yes, yeah, you're excused.
Me, I'm not understanding the difference between the land uses of physical, the relationship between physical factors and human factors.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Asea.
Yes.
Before you respond, I think we do have some students.
The last, I think she was breaking.
She said she does not understand the relationship between physical factors and human factors. And let me quickly ask Helen. Helen, are you in Form 1? Helen?
No, okay.
No,
Yes,
the reason I'm asking, there are students who are in Form 1 that I wanted to first identify so that we don't answer at a very high level. Are you one of them?
No, okay. The thing is that is like
No.
this. I found that you had already started, so you left me. I'm lost.
Okay. Thank you. And Helen, please don't get offended because I shared the link with some of the students I teach. So it's all right. Mr. Asea, you could proceed to answer. She says she doesn't quite get the relationship between physical features and human features.
Physical features and human features. Okay, I think there was a time when we left. I think this is where we could have left you. Go back there. We said physical factors. Physical factors are natural. And human factors are features. Are factors as a result of man's activities. So the physical factors include things like relief, drainage, natural vegetation, or rocks. But there are times when it may be difficult for you to, in a photograph, to tell that this is a fertile soil, this is a rocky and shallow. In a photograph, you can be able to see that. But there are times detecting the fertility is also just interpreted from the nature of the vegetation and the crops being grown. And so soils, natural vegetation, drainage, and relief factors. They're naturally occurring factors which may influence. So the human activities include cultivation, so in the cultivation, livestock keeping, industry, transport, mining, fishing, tourism, and several others. Activity man does in order to earn income. Those are the economic activities. Though we may not say that a settlement is an economic activity. So I hope you get a difference between physical factors or physical features and human or human activities. The human activities are the land use activities, which may, while the physical factors are naturally occurring features which may influence land use, like relief, drainage, natural vegetation, and soils. So now, suggesting an area in East Africa where the photograph could have been taken. Suggesting an area in East Africa where the photograph. The other question at where do you think this photograph could have been taken? There are some guiding factors. There's some guiding factors one has got to consider. And with our case here, where we're saying that the suggested area should be a hill where cultivation on slopes is practiced under terracing or contour plowing. The broad valleys. So an area which has such can be suggested and credited. So it should be such in an area. Then examples. Examples may the place you can talk of Kabale, sections of Kabale, and Kisoro, that is in the Kigezi region. In the Kigezi region, we have those areas. Then in the Mount Elgon region, we have places like Sironko, Mbale, Sironko, Manafwa, even places like Bukuo, Bulambuli, Bududa. Those places in the Mount Elgon region could also be suggested. Then also Kasese and Bundibugyo, Kasese and Bundibugyo in the Mount Rwenzori region. Mount Rwenzori region is a highland region. Kabale is also some, we'll talk of the Kabale, the Chigezi Highlands is also a Chigezi what? Is also a highland region. So those places, and those places have vegetation and so on. So they should be those areas. Otherwise, we know we have highland areas in Karamoto, Mountain Park, those areas. They are the highland areas, but you don't find cultivation on the what, on the slopes. So one who talk of the evidence will say, this photograph was taken in Moroto, evidence by Mount Moroto. No, you have got now to consider the secondary factors, but otherwise the piece of evidence here include the Hile or highland area, where there is also what, cultivation and a terracing. In the broad valleys, those ones could be some of the things considered as now suggested reasons for the answer. Suggested reasons for the answer. The Hile nature of relief, that is the primary what? Reason. Primary reason is a Hile relief, Hile nature of the relief. Then the others to applying on the slopes, pastoral or dairy farming in the broad valleys, and the existence. But the primary one is a Hile what? Hile nature of relief. That is the main reason. Otherwise, this place, the example, this place, the areas in the Chigezi region, the Mount Elgon region, and also in the what? In the an area should not be a broad area. Don't say the photograph was taken in Chigezi. The photograph was taken in Western Uganda. Photograph was taken in the Kabale district. And also, you know, a whole district, unless the whole district is what is, but otherwise, there's been a tendency that you may mention Kabale. Kabale may be a place of the district. When you say Kabale district, that may now also seem to be what? Quite broad. So the advice is to avoid stating that it is a what? A district or a region. Avoid stating that it is a district or a region, because that will be considered as a broad. You can say Kabale, but you don't say Kabale what district. You may say Mbale. Okay, I think for now we can stop here. We have covered some of the major what aspects as far as photographic interpretation is concerned. So take questions. I don't know how much time we are. I think we.
Thank you, Mr. Asea. I think we can now take some questions.
Okay, let me stop here.
Therefore, at this time, I see that Mr. Musanje's mic is open and active. Mr. Musanje, do you want to comment quickly before we go to Mr. Akampa, guest?
Bit of district, not district. Thank you so much, Mr. Asea, for that. But my only request is you would simply make it clear. I request you make it clear that they don't write the word district. Otherwise, when you make it open, they will write. And the district is a very area. So my advice is you completely leave out the word district and either write Mbale, write any area, write Kasese, but don't write the word district, because a district is a broad area that cannot be used for a photograph interpretation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Musanje, for that emphasis.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Musanje, yeah, for emphasizing. In fact, don't show that it is a what? Don't mention Mbale district. District is a large area, as Mr. Musanje has said. So thank you very much, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Could you raise your hand if you have a question? Michael Akampa, please go on, unmute and then submit. Michael?
Yeah, thank you, our teachers. I'm also suggesting that what if you
Michael, do you want to switch on your?
What if you choose one?
Okay, what if you do?
What if you choose one place in a district and then you state it? What do you think about that?
Okay, yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Is saying that district, because the entire district cannot be like that. So it's better you, as you have suggested, for example, in you may say the photograph could have been taken in Rugarama, in Kabale district. So the place you have mentioned is what? Rugarama. You could say it has been taken in Muyebe in Kabale district. But you may mention something. Possibly you may just get marks for what? Benefit of doubt. But otherwise, who knows about Rugarama? Who knows about it?
And Mr.
I can even create some name.
A follow-up question. Would it be okay to say it was taken from Mount Elgon?
It was
if
taken.
I say it was taken from Mount Elgon.
Mount Elgon is a region. So it should be okay. Mount Elgon says a region, so it wouldn't be good because the Mount Elgon covers you know how many districts Mount Elgon covers a very wide area.
I want
so
to say
if we're saying that if you don't make the term district, now a region is even worse.
Okay.
Yes. Who was it? Mr. Musanje?
Yes. Actually, you give an answer that Mountain Elgon is much wider than a district. It's a region and a wider area that you can talk about a photograph. Otherwise, when you talk about a mountain, that would typically change from what we are talking about as the slopes. Otherwise, we shall take the mountain from the upper areas down slope, and the photo is only showing the gentle and low-lying areas. So it's only the foothills of the mountain. So you can't use a mountain as an area to represent a photograph because it's wider, it's simpler region, it's a bigger area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Musanje. Students, are there some who have additional questions? Mr. Asea, I have, those who have questions, please put up your hand. Then we can pick you, we can choose you. But I got a question in the chat room as we wait. Someone said, how do you identify a broad valley? What identifies a broad valley? Who was that? Okay, so that was from the chat room. Mr. Asea, Mr. Musanje, Mr. Nsuki, how do you identify, what identifies a broad valley? Someone had it in the chat room.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayub. So with a broad valley, just as one may go for field, take the photograph of that place. or one can see it on a map. So is a wide low-lying area between raised lands, If it is wide and quite extensive, with the sides it is quite raised, then we could refer to that valley, as opposed to a narrow valley, because we have a narrow valley. The one which is very narrow is a what? Is a gorge, a narrow valley, a V-shaped valley, but a broad valley is quite wide. It is maybe close to in a photograph. If it is a partly, it could be viewed as a what? As a lowland, even. But otherwise, it is an extensive low-lying area between two what? Raised lands.
Thank you
That
very much. So you are saying that the base is almost flat. It is very, very wide.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It is quite wide, very wide.
Lynette, please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, teachers. I wanted to know, how do you identify a lowland from a highland?
Great. Let's pick 2 additional questions. So that is one. How, Mr. Asea, kindly don't answer that one yet. How do you identify a highland from a lowland? Next, let's go to Precious. Precious, please go on. Precious, unmute so that you pick your question. Precious, unmute.
I think you can pick another one.
Okay, Precious. Okay, Precious, you might kindly type your question. Let's go to Michael.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you, teachers. I was just saying that the teacher can at least repeat for me that point connecting with rocks and soils to the human factor in the photograph.
Okay, so rocks and soil to human. Okay, let's speak. Mr. Asea, could we handle those 2? How do you distinguish between a highland and a lowland in the photograph? And how do you connect rocks, soils, and human activities? Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, yes, students, for the questions. Yeah, showing that actually you have been following. Now, a highland and a lowland, how do you distinguish between the 2? A lowland, the 2 are distinguished in terms of their height. A low-lying area tends to be at a generally low altitude, and in terms of the morphology, it tends to be rather flat, or plain land. It tends to be rather flat, but it is also at a lower altitude. While a highland is an area of more height, of a greater height. It is usually we may talk of the uplands and the highlands. There are some places in the photographs that we may see as highlands, and yet it could just be a hill which you may technically refer to as an upland. So an upland may not necessarily be a highland. A highland is described so in terms of the relief. A highland is an area which is considered to be more than 3,000 meters. at least something close to 3,000 meters and above. That is a highland area. But a hill or an upland may just be like about 1,000 something or 2,000 meters above sea level. But if an area lies lower comparatively to another, then the one which is higher is said to be an upland. The one which is lower is said to be a what? The lowland. Though some of these could be in what? In highland areas. You may find that in the Rwenzoris, on Mount Rwenzori, we have intermountain plateaus. We have plateaus within the mountain. We have basins, intermountain basins. Basins are there. We have flatlands within the what? The mountain. So you may find that a photograph could have been taken in the upper areas of Mount Rwenzori, where it is flat. Then the surrounding areas are quite what? They are quite high. So it would be also quite unfair to say that the other one is what? Lowland. Technically, lowlands are in terms of what? Altitude. One would rather say it is a what? A flatland. That's why I'm saying that a lowland may not necessarily mean what? A flatland. Because those flat areas in the Rwenzoris, in the Rwenzori mountains, could we say they are lowlands? No, but they are flat there. There are even basins, there are basins there, depressions there. There are plateaus, what they call intermountain plateaus, they're there. So in summary, I'm saying that lowland, technically, a lowland is an area which is of relative what? Low altitude, relatively low altitude. And in photographic interpretation, we tend to compare it with the what? With the surrounding areas, But if we go into deeper onto what a lowland is, what a highland is, it may confuse us as far as photographic interpretation is concerned. Then there's the other question about
connecting soils and human activity. How do you
human
connect
activities? So relationship between soils and the human activities. Now, you may see that some crops could have been grown. Crop like bananas, like coffee, those could have been grown in a place. What do you tell about the nature of the soils? So soils can be in terms of their fertility, in terms of the fertility and depth. So deep fertile soils have encouraged the growth of what? Of the crops, have encouraged crop growing in the area. Because in the photograph, you may not have seen the what? Or tested that it is what? It is fertile, but from the results, from the nature of the crops grown, you definitely will tell that it is what? It is fertile. So a relationship, you could say, where the soils are deep and fertile, crop cultivation has taken place. Where the soils are rocky, yeah, there has been what? Construction of settlements. That could be a way of giving the relationship between the physical factor of soils and the economic activity.
Thank you, Mr. Asea. I think that was very well handled. There's a request to display the last slide. But before you do that, we had a question which I think Precious had earlier. Her question was, how do I identify a spa? So Precious, that was your question. How do I identify a spa? I picked your question right here. How do I identify the spa? The next, are there PDFs for photographic interpretation? And if so, how can we access them? We have shared with you a particular website. It is giantpedia.com. You'll go there. We will be posting some PDFs of photographs, a few of them. Then I hand over to Mr. Asea to take us through how do I identify a spa. Could mention it, we did it last time, but could just mention it quickly, but we did it last time.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. A spa. When talking of a spa, I say that a spa is the projecting or radiating lower end of a hill, over here. That is a spa. So I think we could sit more with the photograph. Let me try to look for some photograph which has spas. Some photograph which has spas, which we even saw last time. Okay, I think there is this other one here. So let me see how I can share it. Share this photograph. So there's this photograph. This is the hill. It has some radiating or some projecting, some ends, lower ends which are projecting. You can see, have you seen this one? This end is projecting this way. This is also here projecting this side. This is projecting. This is a spa. This is a spa. This is a spa. This is also what? A spa. A spa. In between two spas, there is usually what? A valley. It's a valley. It's a spa, a valley in between. Just now, like there's also this one here. You have seen this section. This projecting end. The hill is here. This end, which is projecting this side. This is a what? A spa. This is a spa. Then also here, this end, this lower end, which is projecting this other side. This is also a spa. And for this hill here, this lower end, which is projecting this side, is a spa. So this is a spa. This is also what? A spa. This spa gets into the valley of this side. A spa, a spa. In between, some kind of valley here. A spa here, a spa here. There's another spa there. So this spa gets into this other what? Valley here. Now, you can now see these spas are interlocked. They're getting into themselves. So that's why we can say they're normally described as interlocking spas. These are now interlocking spas because this one gets into this side, this one gets into what? This side. This one gets into this side, this other one gets into this side. So these are interlocking spas. Otherwise, this portion here, the projecting end of a what? Of a hill is a spa. It's a spa. So I think you have now seen what a spa is. So I think I could do that. Then the other thing was sharing the last slide.
We concluded.
So now this one here. This is what we are saying, okay, that suggesting an area in East Africa where the photograph could have been taken. So the area suggested should be Hill or Highland area, where cultivation on slopes is practiced under terracing or contour plowing with dairy farming in the broad valleys. Examples may include Kabale, Rubanda, Kisoro.
Sorry, Mr. Asea, I think the candidate wanted to write that information. Meanwhile, for us, we can continue by answering the other questions. So the question, and I think is the final one for today, are there qualifiers when you are writing relationships? That is from Sylvia. I'm not sure I understood the question, but maybe you did. Are there qualifiers?
What may make it to? No, they are not necessarily qualifiers, but what we're saying is that how does one factor affect the other? Just with evidence show that this factor affects the other. For example, by saying that if the factor is the relief, what is on the gentle slopes? On the gentle slopes, there are what? There are settlements. Gentle slopes are being used for settlements. Gentle slopes are being used for what? Road transport. And you have got to locate. What is most important is the influence of the physical factor on the land use activity and where it is. You must locate that evidence. As well, we're trying to do. Otherwise, at times you may give relationships which are valid, but if you don't give the evidence or the location on where it is, whether it is in the foreground or in the background, you may not earn a mark.
Ayub. Thank you. Mr. Asea, you could stop sharing and then we close it now. So
yeah, okay, Kale. Okay, let me stop here. I hope the one who wanted has finished that.
I think has taken a screenshot. The person must have managed to take a screenshot. Someone called my name and probably wanted to give you an opportunity. Now let me give the last statements to teachers, the teachers in the room. If the teachers in the room, you might want to introduce yourself, to have a comment, then we close. Thank you. Are there teachers? I saw Mr. Nsuki, so Madam
Magu.
Madam Nambi. So let me give you a chance to make a quick comment or to introduce yourselves. Put up your hand, please, if you're a teacher, so that I can be able to see you and make you give you that one and unlock. Teachers, okay, Madam Nambi, kindly let's have a quick introduction. We are very delighted to have you this afternoon with us. Madam Nambi, please go first.
Thank you, Mr. Golooba and Mr. Asea for sharing. This is very good knowledge. And I think I've also shared with my students. I hope they are around, but I don't know. Thank you very much. We are getting more and then more. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Madam Nambi. Thank you for being an ardent supporter of this program, for believing in it and organizing your students. Very, very delighted. We know what it takes to be here, and it is not easy. Thank you. Mr. Mumbere Godwin, please go next.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon Asea and the moderator. We are really grateful. And I think out of this session, I've been able to learn and learn some things as a teacher. We believe that learning is a continuous process. It is a lifelong process. So we are really humbled that we can have such platforms and then we update our knowledge base. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mr. Asea, those comments for you and for everyone.
Okay, yeah. So I do appreciate, and thanks for participating and supporting the program too.
Thank you. We also acknowledge Teacher Rushoroza. He says his students are very, very thankful. Teacher Rushoroza is from Western Uganda. He's coordinating the team in Western Uganda, but I think he's, and specifically I can see from the chat room, he's from Kabale, all the way from Kabale. Teacher Soroza, thank you very much. He's always asking about the programs and what we need to do to improve. Brother Charles Kagoye, I think you are able to introduce yourself earlier on. I acknowledge Madame Nabatanzi. She was on at some point. I think she left. Let me just check. Teacher Nabatanzi, yeah, left. And there was also Mr. Nsuki. So thank you very much, everyone. To next week, we shall go to paper 2, I think. I'm yet to confirm with the teacher, because the teachers had wanted to shift gears to do statistics because of the demand. The students were saying we want to do some paper 2. So most likely next week it's paper 2. I've shared with you our WhatsApp group. Oh, did I project myself? Yeah, I think. I've shared with you our WhatsApp group in the chat room. Kindly join the group. We use the group not for learning, but for communicating information to you. Mr. Asea, we are very delighted. I think we have done justice to that unit. Wow, Mr. Musanje, thank you. I'm so happy you are still online because you had said you'd be leaving. We are very delighted. So
no,
next week.
But I went off, then told them to join because they were senior 5, they are on.
Okay. So our students of Nabisusa girls, we are delighted to have you with us. You've come. We used to have some earlier on, but if we have more, we are grateful. We have done justice to photograph interpretation. I'll be putting together the list of the seminars that we've had in photograph interpretation. We have done paper 2, that is mining, but the teachers of paper 2 now think that we should go to statistics. Mr. Asea was talking about moving to a topic of rocks, but we'll talk through the week and see. The teachers of paper 3 are also ready. Today we are discussing with one who was doing urbanization. So we have 3 topics of paper 3 lined up, but we'll be communicating. Join the WhatsApp group, be there with us. We are delighted to have you. Please join giantpedia.com. Giantpedia.com. You just go to that website. We run it. It is Giantpedia. Giantpedia. One word. And then that's where we're posting some of the materials. Thank you very much. I now hand over to Mr. Asea Solomon to say the last statements and then we'll close. Mr. Asea.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much once again, Ayub, for organizing and bringing us together to this forum so that we can be able to learn. It has been a pleasure, and we do appreciate all the appreciations you have made. And thank you for giving us the confidence and also the encouragement to continue sharing. You know, learning never ends. I'm also here to learn. Otherwise, you listen and learn. There is no one who has the monopoly of ideas of knowledge. So once again, I thank you. I wish to thank my colleague, Mr. Musanje, thanking Chelsea Goyam, Mr. Mumbere, and all the teachers on board, and not forgetting you, the students who are really enthusiastic and ready to learn. It is usually one of the bad things in teaching is teaching people who are not interested. Those who are interested, encourage the teacher, even if the teacher may have issues or problems, but so long as there's interest of the learners, yeah, the teacher will always do what? Be encouraged. So thank you very much. I wish you a nice day. The next week we meet again in the near future.
Okay. And the near future is just next week. We meet every Wednesday. So thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye. You might switch on your cameras, then I take one picture if it is okay with you.
Bye.
So you kindly switch on your camera for me to take just one picture. Please switch on the camera. Great. Wow. So I just need to have this beautiful moment taken on camera. That's number one. That's number one. Let me take a second one. Just switch on the camera. Another one with the camera on. Yeah, great. Okay, thank you very much. Let's meet next Wednesday. The link is the same. We don't change our link. So the link you use today is the link for next Wednesday. We meet every Wednesday, 2:30 to 4 o'clock. Today we've gone a little longer because of the importance of this thing, and we're concluding the topic. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.